M. Night Shyamalan is back, and he's Vince McMahon walking to the big screen again with a big banger called Trap. It's all about a serial killer who takes his daughter to a concert, and it turns out that concert is actually a setup from the authorities to catch him. Now, I called it a banger a moment ago, but being honest, it's not amazing. It's a good concept, and it's a concept I thought would be a super easy layup, but in standard M. Night Shyamalan fashion, he delivers the twist, and that twist was somehow missing this layup. I'm going to get into the meat of it in a second, but it is kind of upsetting because I like M. Night Shyamalan movies conceptually, but he has just been really executing pretty poorly on them. The last time I remember really liking one of his movies was Split, and that was quite a long time ago now. I say I like them conceptually, but then I'm always reminded that he made a movie about a beach that makes you old. And that just puts a smile on my face because that is so fucking silly. It reminds me of something that I would think of as like a one-off joke about like a Netflix original film that has a pair of shoes that are evil that breaks your ankle when you put them on or something stupid. But overall, Trap isn't a bad movie, but it could have been so much better. So I'm going to be getting into spoilers here. For this movie, it'd be impossible not to. So, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter plays a very big role in this film, and she is a pop star in it. And in real life, she does a lot of music. And I'm not kidding when I say the first half of this film is almost entirely a concert that's showcasing her songs. There is nothing happening beyond us watching choreography and her performing her music, and then sometimes it cuts to the serial killer who's like looking around and like kind of pseudo dancing. But it really feels like you're just watching a DVD of a pop star's tour. The music's not bad or anything, but it genuinely feels like this movie started with M. Night Shyamalan just wanting to showcase his daughter's musical talent, and then he's like, well, I needed something a little more in here. It can't just be a concert. Eureka! What if I put a serial killer in the audience? That ought to be a good hook. That's how we can package this concert. And, like, it's not a bad movie, but really nothing happens. So what you see in the trailer, where there's all of the FBI and all of these police officers and SWAT around the arena, those scenes are like half of the film, and you see pretty much everything the serial killer does in the trailer. So like, he's not crafty, like he's not actually good at escaping. He sometimes just got really lucky, and that was it. So the scene where he pushes a lady down the stairs, which is in the trailer, yeah, he does that, and then nothing happens from it. He just goes back upstairs, and then when he like has a fryer blow up and spit hot oil to distract people to put on a disguise, and that's really like the only two things he does in that whole fucking arena, and both of them are in the trailer for the film. I really thought that this was going to be like a battle of wits, of a super genius serial killer outsmarting authorities to escape their net here, their web. But he really makes two maneuvers. He then takes a walkie-talkie so he can be, kept up to date with the hot comms and get like play-by-play of what's going on and where they're at, what they're thinking. And he just doesn't really do anything super smart. Like, he didn't come up with like a really good plan where he tries to distract all of the authorities by being like, holy shit, is that goof juice over there? The best Gamer Supps flavor ever made and the best flavor of any beverage ever? Wow, look at that incredible goof juice. And if you want some goof juice, you can go to gamersupps.gg. And then, everyone starts swarming like, goof juice, I gotta get some of that. And then he just slips out the front door because they're all too busy with that. But he doesn't do anything actually smart. Like, it's actually like how I would play a Hitman game. Like, in the quickest way possible. Like, getting the most bare bones disguise, then going to the employees only area, hearing a code word, using the code word, which didn't play any role in anything. All it did was get him out of like one dialogue tree option and nothing else. And then that was all he did. The way he escaped, big spoiler, is he just lied to M. Night Shyamalan, who was a self-insert in this movie, saying that his daughter really wanted to be the dreamer girl, which would allow him and his daughter to go backstage, and then he'd just leave through the backstage area. Like, that's so underwhelming. Like, this elaborate setup, there's like this profiler who's reading him like a book, and the profiler is by far the smartest character in the movie. Like, she gets all of these details right. She's truly, like, living in his fucking head. Like, she is in his brain pulling the levers and he doesn't even know it. And that was cool. Like, I really like that. But the serial killer just literally doesn't do anything to outsmart anyone, per se. So when they do get backstage, his huge play, like his last Hail Mary, because it really is checkmate. It's impossible to escape the trap. And what he eventually does is he pulls the pop star aside and says, "You see this man?" and pulls out his phone, pointing to a guy that he has in his fucking dungeon, like his basement. "I'm going to kill him if you don't take me and my daughter out of here in your limousine." And she's like, "Oh, I don't want to be responsible for that." And so she does. That's how he escapes the trap. Like, that's not really outsmarting anyone. That's not being like some kind of nefarious evil genius. Like, it's just lame. And like I said, the bulk of this entire first half is just spent listening to music and watching the concert. A lot of times he's just doing idle Fortnite animations while we're listening to the concert, and his daughter's dancing, the arena's dancing, the pop star is dancing, and that's really most of what you're getting. So it's just a concept that I thought was cool, where I thought it was going to be like a battle of wits, where this serial killer is coming up with all kinds of really elaborate plans to escape against really smart authorities. I thought this would be like a Light Yagami versus L situation somehow. And holy goodness gracious, hooey, that couldn't have been further off. In fact, I'd actually say the serial killer is pretty dumb. So the butcher is like, they hype him up as this, uncatchable mastermind. But when you actually get to see him and like how he approaches things, he's kind of like an imbecile, actually. I'm getting into huge spoilers. But the way they eventually get him at the very end of the movie is his wife actually found him out. So he has a family, obviously, and his wife was on to him, and she left little breadcrumbs for the authorities, which led them to the concert. And right before the butcher is about to kill his wife, because he finds out that his wife knew, she says, "No, before you do that, why don't we eat this pie?" And he's like, "Fine, we'll eat this pie. It'll only stall for a little bit, but you know what? We shall eat this pie." And it turns out she poisoned the pie. Like, no shit. Obviously, like, you're telling me this mastermind evil serial killer, the butcher, didn't think for a second that this could have been poisoned after his wife has made it clear that she has known for quite a while that he is the butcher? How? How? The guy who doesn't make, like, any mistakes, even though this whole movie is just a showcase of his fucking lowlights here, like, every mistake that you could make in his positions, he does make, and then sometimes just gets lucky. In fact, the only times things go right for him in this movie is when he just gets lucky, and that's it. It also felt like this movie just didn't really know when to end. It's not a long movie, and it doesn't really feel like it drags, but it felt like they kept backing themselves into a corner, like, okay, the butcher's about to get caught, and then he just has this ass pull moment where he's got like a fucking tunnel in his closet that leads him outside, which allows him to convince a limo driver that actually he needs to be driving the limo because he's a SWAT officer, because he got a SWAT officer's uniform. And then he eventually fucks that up too. Like, really, it's just a movie that had a good concept that just wasn't executed overly well. I don't think it's bad, like, I was entertained. And I think half of that is because I really liked the butcher. The actor that was playing the butcher I thought did a really good job. But holy shit, that is the most suspicious looking guy in every scene. So when he's still trying to escape the trap, everyone he talks to, he looks like a Gmod character, like going through all kinds of facial animations, just overly emoting every possible gesture. Like, he is so suspicious. Even if this wasn't set up as a trap, I am shocked that just a bystander wasn't like, okay, this guy is up to no good, and then telling security or some shit. Like, he is just so suspicious every time he interacts with a human being. But, like, that was part of the fun, I guess. So another thing is, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, after they escape in the limousine, she then starts making some pretty big brain plays. And that was cool. Like, she started to outsmart him. Literally everybody outsmarts him until he just kind of gets lucky. So, like, it's not a bad film. There are things I liked about it, but I just can't ignore that it really feels like the main purpose of this film was to promote his daughter's music. And the music's good, but I also would have liked to see pretty much the entire movie take place in that arena with that concept of how are you going to outsmart all of these officers and get out of there. Like, I would have liked to see how they could have explored that concept more effectively, because they don't really do anything with it. Like I said, he only does like 2 or 3 things in the arena until he's just like, okay, I'm gonna kill this guy if you don't let me out, which isn't exactly like the most satisfying way of getting out of that situation. That's really kind of lazy. So yeah, overall a bit disappointing. If I was to plug it into the moist meter, I'd probably give it like a 50% ish, maybe like a 48% if we're gonna just be pulling some numbers out of our ass. It's a fine movie. I just don't think it's very good. It could have been so much better, but like I said, it really felt like the focus of the film was on M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's music, and they didn't really know what else to do beyond a concert. Like, I don't know why you'd have a serial killer who's hyped up to be like super crafty and everything do pretty much nothing crafty. It was just kind of a bit of a letdown for that. Cool concept, and once again, just not executed super well. That's about it. So yeah.